Sustainable conversations for us is one of the very important sessions that we have and that we curate from Thistle Praxis. We've seen quite credible and sustainable changes come out of it up to even at the federal level, and I will share some of them with you. The whole idea was really to bring solutions in silos. We cannot take the whole economy of Nigeria, but we thought that if every country across Africa was talking about sustainable development, the African Union was talking about sustainable development, many people don't understand what we mean by sustainable development. And so the whole idea was to break it in silos and say, if we take one sector of the economy, what are the issues around the sector? And we try to bring the policy makers, the private sector players, the stakeholders across board, we bring them together in a room, and we try to say, look, we know what the problems are. We don't need to rehash the challenges that we are facing in that particular sector. At Thistle Praxis, we have envisaged and reviewed the importance of ICT alignment and integration to our work. This informed the launch of a set of new media products. So we have a mobile app, we have an online channel, we have a test cafe, and some of our products that we put online to increase the uptake, scale up access, and demonstrate the role of ICT in management consulting on sustainability. This edition, the 50th, is simply put together to achieve the following objectives, amongst many others. Propose strategies for the development of the ICT sector beyond where it is, to be adopted with emphasis on the roles of the private sector and other stakeholders. Identify priority issues, as well as develop a feasible framework for implementation. Attempt to draw up a feasible line of action that addresses the status quo as well as future trends, which will ensure Nigeria records significant and sustainable development in the ICT space. The last editions we've had, 4 in all, held on national planning, sustainable agriculture, public health, and education. From our observations and study, the ICT sector has grown most impressively with various sub-stakeholder groups taking leadership through various initiatives. Government efforts have also been greeted with open arms and yearning for even more leadership and direction in this regard. But the big question normally is, how can we fast-track what has been achieved so far? How can we gain momentum beyond where we are? There's no doubt that there's a multifaceted role that ICT can play. Many of us still don't understand, of course, the linkage of every single sector of our economy with the issue of sustainable development. But we are also concerned about often ignored areas. How come nobody's worrying about electronic waste and where all the gadgets and equipment we get end up with? Where are they? Who takes them? What about other things that we're not looking at, for example? Organizations can show commitment to undertake supply chain sustainability strategies, such as extended producer responsibility, or develop approaches to tackle electronic waste as a matter of urgency. Another issue that I think we should be looking at today is how can ICT be used to curb terrorism and rising insurgency? Hacking, decoding, and encryption are needed skills for our armed forces in tracing and stemming the spread of terrorism across our country. Today, sustainable development relies largely on technological change to achieve its aims. Such measures require a long-term view and a preparedness to bear short-term economic costs while the industry readjusts frequently to catch up. What happens to us developing apps, like I said, to being able to decode? I don't think we have so much brain in this country that I think that there are things we can do to be able to curb all this issue of bombing and things being dropped somewhere. What happened to the cameras that were installed, for example, in Abuja? Why can't we develop apps, for example? I think that the sector has much more that it can offer. There are quite a lot of startup techies that are coming up. Young men and women, bright ideas, startup techie, and they get funding. They get a lot of funding that's pumped into this thing. But none of them is seeing it as a business, because the idea is that the venture capital, the funding that are coming from Google and all these other techies, is going to continue forever. But for all of us, we know that that's not what happens. What are the roles of specific players and stakeholders in developing viable frameworks for this sector? What are the existing best practices? What are the constraints? What are the challenges? And what are the prospects? What practical steps, quick wins, can be identified and adopted to ensure the momentum gathered does not fizzle out? If we say if we want to take the trajectory of change from year 2000 to 2014, can we truly show, beyond just the graph, but do we have data to show the change that has occurred within the sector? Once again, welcome and have a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much.